Hello, my name is Chanel Compton, and I'm an artist, and today I'll be sharing with you my transformative journey of creating a portrait of one of humanity's greatest freedom fighters, Harriet Tubman, in honor of her 200th bicentennial year. So, how did I get to do this portrait project? Well, this year in 2022, the world is honoring Harriet Tubman's 200th birthday. She was born in 1822 in Dorchester County on Maryland's Eastern Shore. Harriet Tubman would self-liberate from slavery in her late 20s and would return to the South 13 times to rescue her family and friends, becoming one of the most celebrated conductors of the Underground Railroad. This year, Maryland Public Television produced documentaries about Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass. Both films were directed by MacArthur's Genius Fellow, Stanley Nelson, and both films will be released this year. How exciting. As part of the interpretive film project, I was commissioned by Maryland Public Television to create a portrait of Harriet Tubman that will be unveiled at the Smithsonian National Museum on African American History and Culture. Growing up, I've always loved art and painting. I love making portraits, and it was through art that I found my voice, and I fell in love with the fine arts, visual arts museums, and in high school, I got really serious about my craft. I ended up going to art school and became introduced to some of my favorite artists today, such as Leonardo Drew, Mickalene Thomas, Faith Ringgold, artists who depicted Black history in magical and poetic ways. During grad school, I fell in love with museums, museum education, and community programming. Today, I'm honored to serve as the executive director of the Banneker Douglass Museums, Maryland's official museum on African American history and culture. Through our programs and exhibits, our museums share Tubman's stories daily with people of all ages and backgrounds, so I knew that this portrait project had to stand out from the many illustrations and paintings of Tubman that are exhibited worldwide. So I decided to do a mosaic. I love mosaics, the colors, the strong materials of stone and glass, but I had never done a mosaic before, but I was convinced that this was the perfect medium for this project. So let's see what happens. I was totally excited by my concept, but I was afraid of failing, taking on a high-profile project using materials I had never used before. Here are some of my initial saboteur thoughts that I encountered. Who can relate? So I called Maryland's godfather of mosaic art, Lawrence Cornish. His work is displayed in museums and public spaces throughout the world in Maryland, including the Banneker Douglass Museum. I explained my concerns, and he listened, and he said this. He said, "Be still and let God speak to you." What? He explained that we all have a great purpose that is beyond our own fear. We just need to let our inner voice, be it God or our inner light, guide us, which was like the best advice ever. So I got to work. I researched and bought new materials. I listened to myself. I prayed. I just focused on the materials and the making. And more importantly, I focused on Tubman's story and her courage. Her defiance against slavery started as a child. She was struck in the head by an overseer for protecting an enslaved person who was trying to run away. The near-fatal injury caused her to have a lifetime of fainting spells and prophetic visions of freedom. This act of defiance took place at the Bucktown store, which is still standing today. I took a road trip there to the Eastern Shore and took a soil sample at that location. That soil sample is displayed with the mosaic. Tubman had a deep connection and knowledge of the Eastern Shore waterways, the land, and was very spiritual. She used this deep connection and knowledge to liberate approximately 70 people, and as she puts it, she never lost a passenger. During the Civil War, Harriet Tubman was a Union spy and led the Combahee River Raid. She navigated around explosive mines planted in the river and liberated over 700 enslaved men, women, and children, the largest freedom raid in our nation's history. Tubman's command of the rivers relates to Yemenya, a West African goddess of water. Yemenya's colors are white and blues. She is a protector of women, parents, and children, and she gives love and healing. I created a portrait of Harriet Tubman entitled, "Be Still, Radiant Child." It captures her connection with her inner spirit, nature, to God, and to her ancestors. For me, this was a pure project of love. In making this project, I learned that we are all blessed with an inner voice that is absent of doubt and fear. And we need to be still and listen to that voice, because it will always guide you to where you need to be. Thank you.